What's up, everyone? It's Billy Kayaks here with Strictly Kayak Fishing, and holy moly, 2 events are already in the books. We're creeping up on Mother's Day, which means our next event is going to be in June, and I'm here with Brandon Riffle, who, well, I'll just start with, how's it going, man?
What's up, brother?
What's going on, dude?
Living the dream, bro.
Well, if the dream is getting a second place and then following it up with a first place, you
Yeah,
are living the dream.
for sure, for sure.
So you crushed it at Alum. Um, I know there was Alum is always like heavy with smallmouth, especially that time of year.
Yeah.
And you came in, you did your thing, and then you were like, I'm moving on to East Harbor. How many times have you fished East Harbor?
Out of a kayak, that is the first time ever. I fished a lot of big bass boat tournaments up there. We go out of Sandusky Bay. I like fishing East Harbor in those because not a lot of big boats fish in there in the tournaments. I don't know why. Maybe because we have the option to go out into the lake and we can run farther. There's more options. But
Yeah, it's interesting where you even when we're fishing some of these big lakes, but lakes that fish small, where
mhm.
people are doing, it's clear that the bass boats are doing like their milk run, and they'll just zoom up on you and shut down the motor, and they'll fish for like 20 minutes, and then whang, and then they're just gone, and you're like, man,
Yeah,
oh, okay. And we have a version of that with our kayak motors, but
yeah,
it's just a little slower.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was a lot of traffic in East. I mean, I normally so last year I fished West. I have a lot more confidence in West as far as numbers. And my thought is always the more numbers I can go through, the better. And eventually, I'll get the right ones. Um, Thankfully, kind of jumping into it head first, I practiced West on Thursday before the tournament. I said, this is where I'm going to go. I know probably what I'm going to do. They're probably going to be pre spawn. I wished that they were spawning because I really like looking at them. And that's one thing I'm very confident in doing. But I went to West and I crushed them, but there were 15 and 16 inches. So I said, well, there's a storm coming. I went back to camp, set up real quick, let the storm roll in. Talked to the two guys I camp with. I camp with Joe McCall and oh my gosh, I can't think of the other guy's name right now off the top of my head. But
Rob,
anyways,
was it Rob? Oh no, it was Kevin. Yeah,
Kevin Thames, yeah,
yep,
I can
Kevin
never
Sands.
remember Kevin's name. Must be the West Virginia, slips my mind.
Yeah,
Uh,
I want to say Rob because Rob camps with Joe McCall a lot, but
yeah,
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 no, that was
yeah.
Kevin. Yeah,
So we were just kind of sitting around BSing, and the storm kind of blew through, and I'm like, "Is it done?" Like I want to go fishing. Like we're at Lake Erie. I want to go fishing. And they're like, "Yeah, we're thinking we're done. I will go with you." So I'm like, "Well, let's just go over here to East. We're staying at the campground. Just put in nice and easy. Nothing crazy." And I went out, and I actually surprisingly started catching them on a wake bait. And I'm like, "Oh my god! Like this is my jam. I love catching them on top water." So I ran actually over to Bass Haven and I caught 15 fish just in Bass Haven. And they were all 15 and a half to 17 inches. I'm like, well, my average is better here. I know I can catch numbers, but I know it's going to be crowded. And at the time, I think we only had like 50 something people signed up. So I'm like, well, maybe 30 of them will be here and I can navigate 30 people.
yeah.
Um, so went back, went to sleep, got up the next morning. I'm like, I'm going to go figure out the grass bite in East. I never really focused on it besides being at a big boat. But in a big boat, I'm a run and gun kind of guy. I really, really, really like if I have 50 waypoints, I'm hitting all 50 in the day. Obviously, unless you land on them and then you'll just sit there and just milk them until they're until they're gone. Um, but I went out and I ended up leaving the lake at 10 o'clock. I had everything figured out that I needed to figure out by 10 o'clock in the morning, which
Wow.
was good because the wind picked up and it really started getting nasty, apparently. I actually had to come back home. My mom had a surprise birthday party. So I ran all the way back home, hour and 45 minutes, did that and came back up. And I was talking to Joe. I said, dude, I feel okay. But I'm freaked out that now I figured out that we had 90 plus people. I'm like, how many people do you think is going to be in East? I don't fish here. He goes, probably 70 of the 90. And I'm like, oh my God. you know, I I don't think I'm going to be able to do like my run, my little milk run, because I didn't have a specific spot. Saw some guys. I saw Aaron out there. I saw Weicker out there, and I'm like, okay, everybody has their own little style of fishing, and they weren't doing what I was doing. But the people that I did see, everybody was throwing white when they were moving, throwing white, throwing white, throwing white, and I'm like, I, I caught some fish on white. I mean, the wake bait I was throwing was white, but when I started throwing that bladed jig, it was not white. you know?
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to lock it in my hand and I'm just going to run with it, sink or swim. Um, but the wind is what worried me. I'll be honest with you. The wind switching 180 degrees and blowing 20 plus out of the north anytime on Lake Erie, it's super dangerous. But what it does do is sets those fish up to bite, and it sets them up really well. Um, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I can't even explain it to you why that wind does what it does. But the only thing I can think is it pushes those thread fins and the gobies in out of the chute from the main lake, and it stacks them up inside the bay.
Yeah.
My opinion. That's not fact. I mean, it could be. I don't know. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, I mean, you won the tournament. So it's interesting you say that because I was throwing white and I'm always like, color doesn't matter. Color doesn't matter. It's the thump of the blade. I'm throwing a bladed jig. If they're biting it, they're going to bite it. And they did bite it in practice.
Yeah.
But I had my son with me and he had a bluegill pattern jackhammer
Mm-hmm.
and he caught one 10 minutes after lines in. And then he caught one maybe 30 minutes later, 45
Okay.
minutes later. And I was stubborn and I was just like, I don't know. I mean, I felt good. Like I
Yeah.
felt like, oh, maybe I helped put him on the fish or whatever.
Yeah.
But it didn't click to switch the color. I know a lot of people listen to this on, audio like Spotify or wherever, but you did show me. Did you want to hold it up for those that are
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
on
Hold it
YouTube?
up. Let me set my drink down here.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can see it good, but that is the bait.
Yeah, we can see it. There it is.
So most people don't know on here and probably won't know. I am the owner and operator and founder of 330 Bait Company. So this is my custom bladed jig. I make these. This color, we offer this obviously for sale. And it's actually the funny thing is our awards are at Fisherman Central. They carry it. And I even said it at Fisherman Central. I threw a perch colored bladed jig. Then I wasn't lying. Now the trailer, I do not make soft plastics. So I got hooked up with a guy. His name is Shane. He owns QC Lure Works. He is a veteran, and I like buying from local companies and small companies. My dad's actually a veteran. He helps out with my company. So that is the trailer. He calls it the fidget minnow. It's literally the same as the Rapala.
Yeah.
But it matches that bladed jig perfectly. Orange belly, green pumpkin top, and the skirt on this bladed jig is green pumpkin on top and has the orange and the yellows and all that inside.
Yeah.
So what this is what I was telling Joe. So Joe's part of my pro staff now. And I told him, I said, look, man, everybody throws jackhammers. I'm never going to knock a jackhammer. They catch fish. But I'm telling you that this bladed jig, for one reason or another, absolutely smashes them. And what I honestly think it is we obviously don't make ours out of tungsten. We cannot. You can't melt tungsten. It's the melting point is way too high. So they're made out of lead. And with the connection, it actually hits the head with the blade. Okay. So with tungsten, you're going to have a more of a higher pitched, like clicking sound. If you
Yes.
listen to a jackhammer under the water, it kind of clicks like somebody snapping their fingers. These have a more of a low thump. And it just thump, 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 and it's nice and slow. And this one is actually a 3/8 ounce. I lost both of my half ouncers during the tournament. One got bit off by about a 32-inch walleye in the middle of East Harbor.
Okay.
And the other one, I was about 10 minutes away from lines out and I went to cast and snapped it off.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but either way, I was like, you know what? I'll just tie on this 3/8. Biggest thing I found in practice, and could be in my head, we're all fishermen. We think, like you said, does color really matter? For me, it's more psychological. It always has been. Um, if I get a good bite on a green pumpkin, for instance, but I only could get, pound and a halfers or just keepers on a white or chartreuse or whatever, I'm gonna throw the green pumpkin. It's all psychological. But the biggest key difference, and this bait has a silver blade. Those baits I was throwing were all gold bladed. They were gold plated blades,
Yeah.
and the blade was bent, so that one's dead straight. The ones that I was throwing had a bent blade. What that does is it has that real tight action, keeps it real tight, almost like throwing a square bill to a shad wrap. You
Right.
have that real wide wobble or a real tight wobble. And with that temperature dropping 20 degrees, the wind switching 180 and blowing cold water into the bay, um, that was what my head told me to throw, and that's what I stuck with. Granted, I caught two fish back to back within the first, I think, 10 minutes of the tournament. And I'm like, okay, like I know what I need to be doing. You know, I'll be honest with you. I made a stupid decision. I ran straight to Bass Haven first thing in the morning. I should have never done that. It was so dark I couldn't see, and I was taking water over the front of my kayak. I fished out of a Hobie Pro Angler 14, and
Yeah.
it was coming over the front. So I said, "This is really dumb." I did my intro on my GoPro, and it was so wet that my GoPro just fried. It was just shot. It wouldn't
Wow.
stay on, unfortunately, which sucked because that was the tournament I wanted to edit.
Oh, for sure.
I
Yeah.
caught so many fish. It was just ridiculous. I was throwing 15 and a half, 16 and a half, just like I would boat flip them, grab them, and wouldn't even look at them, just pitch them back. And I had guys all around me all day, looking at me like I was cross-eyed, you know.
Yeah.
But no, it was interesting to hear when I talked to Aaron at the awards. I was like, "Hey, was that you like sitting in the middle of the bay the whole day?" Because I don't know what kind of kayak he fishes out of. I know it's
Right.
a Hobie, but I don't know what color it is. I know he's super tall, but I've never actually talked to Aaron. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, that was me." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." He never moved all day.
No,
And
no. I mean, that's what
honestly,
he does. He'll spot lock
yeah,
and throw that Texas rig worm, big worm.
yeah,
Um, it's funny you mentioned that you went straight to Bass Haven. That's where I also went. My son and I, if you saw a couple other like two anglers that were kind of near each other, that was my son and I. And he caught one back in there. There's a spot where they kind of stack up that I've caught
yeah,
them before, and I had a YouTube video. They weren't there, so I started to kind of scramble. So we left Bass Haven and went, you know, um, I guess north.
yeah,
But it was interesting. No, I saw some anglers out there like where you were, and yeah, man, I'm just like I'm thinking about the whole my my pre-fishing instincts were correct,
yeah.
and the pattern I identified was correct, and I
Hmm.
just didn't execute. And this is about you. This is about you and your baits that you make. But I'm kind of rethinking like,
No,
dang,
I love to hear about it,
I
man.
was so close to. But the reason I brought it up was to tell this story when we cut across from the campground. I had just put 1103 on the Outback, so I have
Okay.
a Pro Angler 14 that I fish out of. Put the 1103 on the Outback, and he took off. His boat is faster than mine, so he's a kid. Well, I mean, he's 18, but he took off ahead of me, and he didn't realize that his hatch. I didn't realize it either at the time. he was taking on water. So by the time we got back to Bass
Jeez.
Haven, his Outback looked like it was about to sink.
Oh
And
no.
I told him, like, I was like, hey, buddy, we got to wait till the sun comes up. Like, I can't do anything now. If you need to, beach it over here on these rocks, let me fish for 30 minutes
Yeah, yeah, for
until
sure.
the, first bite. And luckily we had a hatch, like an extra insert, like the Hobie insert. We
Hmm.
had an extra one in the front, and so we were able to bail out his kayak while normally it's that 10-15 minutes before lines in where it's kind of everything's calm and
Yeah,
you're just excited. We were like
yeah.
frantically bailing out his boat, and then he caught a fish like 10 minutes after lines in. He caught like a 17 and a half.
Nice.
And yeah, it was so cool. Got a great picture of that. And then he opens his middle hatch and he's like, my bucket is full of water. And I was like, okay, that's good news. Your bucket should, if you're taking on water, if there's a crack in your hull or something happened, your bucket would be floating.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
fact that there's water in your bucket means your hatch wasn't closed.
It wasn't
Um,
sealed. Yeah.
yeah. So, but to your point, normally on a normal day, on a normal lake, normal morning, you're not gonna take on that much water. But that's how rough it was at 5:30,
Oh, it was
and it's
nasty.
only a 10-minute run across the lake.
It was nasty.
It was, yeah, it was really bad. Like I was trying to get him to come over closer to me. And we both had our semi-dry suits on. I mean, we were 100% prepared
Yeah.
for the, cold, other than gloves.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed. I,
Uh,
I did not expect the. It was one of those days, right, where you had to be mentally tough and go,
oh
okay,
yeah.
I can do this.
Well, normally tournaments are only 8 hours, and I looked at them like, well, we can get there at 5:30. Lines in at 6. Oh, we're ending at 3. Like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. More time on the water. Well, 1 o'clock rolled around, and I was like, this sucks. Like, my hands hurt so bad. Literally, my real hand was like that. Like, I could not move my fingers. But what I started doing, what I figured out is the water was so warm
Yeah.
compared to the 49-degree air temperature with 20-mile-an-hour winds. I just kept sticking my hands in the water. Like,
That's good.
and
And it
the
warmed him up.
wild thing, I did that by mistake. So I switched my nets out. I usually use just a smaller net, and I just kind of set it up on the front hatch. That 14's got a huge front hatch. You just set your net up there.
Yeah.
But the waves kept knocking my net off. And I'm like, this is not happening. This net is a $150 net. I'm not doing it. So I stuck it back in the molded rod holder. Well, I never touched it the rest of the day. I was catching those 17s and 18s, and I had one that was 19 and a half. And I was boat flipping everything up to the point of when I saw that 19 and a half, it had that bladed jig all the way down, like by its crushers, and it was just barely skin hooked. And I literally stuck my entire hand in its mouth, and the bait went flying by my head.
Oh
So
wow.
I was like, man, this water's really warm. So I just kept sticking my hands in the water. The problem is with the wind and the rain. And when I would get cold, so I was telling my wife, it's funny, and I showed her on my Humminbird. I went and literally my track lines are a triangle. Like I just literally just did a triangle all day. I would go out in front of that, what people call the pond on east, on
Yeah.
the north side. I'd go there. I would go out a little bit, weave my way through, go back over towards like where the campground is, work my way back north, and just do a complete triangle. And every single time I went through, I caught 1 to 2 fish. It's sometimes more, but I, I'll be honest with you, I never expected that.
Dude, I
I really
can't
didn't.
I can't help but think that it has something to do with, and maybe this is obvious to everyone listening, the sound that your bladed jig was making
Mm-hmm.
versus the jackhammer that I was throwing. And I know the color, the perch color. I think Melissa said she told a bunch of people. So I don't know. Hey, Melissa, if you're listening, sorry. She was also throwing like a perch pattern,
Yeah.
and she got
Yeah.
limit like first thing in the morning.
Brett
But
Height Delight is what she was throwing.
yeah. And I think like half ounce because she was
Yep.
talking about how, get it down deeper. But you like, did you just like let it Did you let it sink longer once you
No,
had the three?
it's funny because some of the spots that were really like high, some of them weeds weren't all super super high. And I was telling Joe after the tournament, I said, "Do you know what's weird? I would find like where the weeds transition to other weeds, like from sandgrass to milfoil, and I would catch some fish there. But where I caught most of my fish, there was no grass. Like
Yeah.
it was complete weird, like bare spots where it was just sand and gravel. But what I would do, I would throw up into the grass and I would snap that rod so hard, my wrist was killing me at the end of the day because I was ripping it half ounce. And as soon as I would like double snap it out, it, I'm telling you, I throw a bladed jig a lot. That's one of the things that I'm very confident in. I'm a power fisherman at heart. I love flipping. That's what I did at Alum Creek. But I really, really, if I can do it, that's where my confidence is.
Yeah.
And after I caught that first fish in practice, after snapping it out of the grass, it was a 20 incher. And I was like, okay. And when I say it had it gone, it was gone. Like I had to go through the gill plate to pop the hook out.
Wow.
So like the back end of that fidget minnow was down in its crushers. Like I don't know how your fish bit because you were throwing a bladed jig too, right?
Yeah.
It was I'm used to it because I throw it a lot, but I was trying to explain to Joe and Kevin, I said it was almost like they would give you negative pressure. Like when you're throwing a crankbait and you can feel the wobble, 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 and then there's just nothing,
Yeah.
and then it loads up. Like it almost feels like you got stuck in weeds because you can't feel that blade going back and forth, and you would instinctively snap it. Well, half the time they're already on it. So, I mean, fortunately, very fortunately, I fished really clean. I didn't lose any fish
Yeah.
besides one at the boat out actually by Aaron. Come to find out it was Aaron. Um, I caught a 19 and a half right behind him, and I started going back towards the campground ramp, and I had won something. I don't know what it was. I never saw it. All I saw was a flash. Right next to the boat, I went to adjust my live scope pole, and it something smoked it. And instinctively, I set the hook, and it just broke off. So I'm pretty sure it was a walleye. That's what I told myself in my head.
Yeah.
Um, because
Yeah.
be quite honest with you, I didn't think I told Joe and Kevin, I said it's going to take 96 to 97 inches. And I think Joe was the one, he hit it right on the head. He was like, no, 93, 94, and I'm like, okay. I mean, mid to upper 90s is respectable, I
Yeah.
think because we all know what Lake Erie can put out.
Well, the issue with all those guys like Aaron and Bobby Weicker, they'll go out there and like Aaron told me one time, I've never caught a 21, and then he caught a 21 that day. The issue is when they're fired up, the you can get 520s if
Yeah.
you're on the fish,
Yeah.
but 20. So you won big bass, $470 fish. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A 19 and a half on East Harbor is like, I don't even want to say respectable. It's like that's a legit fish because even those 15-inch fish, when you get them out of the water and you look at them, you're just like, this is a monster. Like
Yeah.
this fish is going to be giant. And they're like, it's not going to be giant. It's
Yeah.
just the East Harbor fish.
Mm-hmm.
So those 19 and a halves, or when you get into the 20 range or
Yeah.
19 and three quarter, and then if you can put together a bunch of those, and the same thing you did on alum. I mean,
Yeah.
you had you had three fish over 19 on
Yeah.
alum.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So,
Off
but
one spot.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was one spot.
that's that's crazy.
You
So
can watch that YouTube video. It's pretty cool. That was one of the more fun edits.
what is, because we plugged the recent one we did, Young's fishing. Is that right? Bobby Young is gonna kill me. I think there's an S is where I was messing it up before. Young's
Okay.
fishing. But I'm trying to get all the Ohio anglers
Yeah.
to follow, like, and subscribe and do all those things that we talk about
Yeah.
to make sure we support everyone. So what is your YouTube channel?
So mine is called Blue Line Bass Fishing.
Okay.
Hence, I work in law enforcement, so I am always want to support my brothers and sisters in law enforcement and first responders. So I figured that was an appropriate name for me.
Yeah, I love it. And a good time to say thank you for your service.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's yep. We are fortunate to have many people that do what you do. And like you said, all the first responders. So blue line bass fishing. At first I was gonna ask if that was like your tackle. What's the name of your tackle company?
330 Bait Company.
Oh,
So
that's right. You said that already. So
330 is our area code
yeah.
down here. I live in Uniontown.
Okay.
Our shop is actually in Suffield. It's only 5 minutes from Magua Reservoir. Um,
Oh, okay. Oh
so
boy. I see where that's
yeah.
headed.
You know what? I'll be
I see
honest with
what's
you.
going on here.
I'll be honest with you. So the little shack like bait tackle place at Mogador Reservoir there by the ramp at 43, they
Yeah.
actually carry some of our products. So if anybody would ever need something, you can walk right in there. Pat Sursek is the owner there. So not only can you rent kayaks there, John boats, and all that, you can actually go in and he sells soft plastics, live bait, and stuff like that. So if you can't get to Mogador Bait and Tackle, which also carries our products, he's right there on the water.
Uh,
So
how much time do you spend like tying, making, crafting? What's it called? I don't. I've never made a bait. How much
so
time do you spend doing that?
I'll be honest with you. So my dad is a military veteran and he is also retired. So this wasn't a business up until 2019. He retired and he's like, "Look, I'm bored. Let's make this a business." And I was like, "No, I have too many secrets and too many things that I've worked too hard to do and perfect. I don't want to let it out. I'm selfish, you know?" And he's like, "No, no, like we can make some good money, at least cover our habit,
Yeah.
cover the tournament entries, which I'm very fortunate. I don't have to pay for tournament entries. It comes right out of the business. And when I, fortunately, this year I've had great success thus far. I put my entries back in and I pay for the next one. I mean, I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to do something like that. But I personally don't spend a whole lot of time um, when it's the off season is when I spend the most time. So your winter. So I would say probably from September to about February, we are absolutely getting smashed with orders. Both Fisherman Central locations order a boatload of stuff. So we're only a two-man crew. We don't have employees.
Yeah.
Like the shop is in my parents' basement. It's plenty for what we need, and we can keep up. So I mean, I work 12-hour shifts. I don't have a whole lot of time to do stuff, and I was capable, and I let my dad know, like, hey, this is the quality we need to put out. I don't care if you only do, 100 jigs a day. I want them to be good quality. I don't want stuff breaking. I don't want people coming back saying, "Hey, my spinnerbait blade fell off," because we have a quick change blade system on our spinnerbaits. So it's just little nuances that we like to do, but I enjoy it. It's a hobby for me. I never expected it to be a business, be honest with you,
Yeah.
but it's cool. I can go, down in the shop and make 4 or 5 more perch color bladed jigs and throw them in a box, not thinking anything about it. So
You don't have to
yeah,
go on Tackle Warehouse or Japanese Tackle something or another and start doing the math on am I going to get this bait before tournament day
yeah. I
or
tell
buy
people,
or buy too many baits
yeah, you
because
know what? And I tell people all the time, I said, look, we have a website, but please don't order off our website. Just call me or message me on Facebook because it's going to save you money. I would rather if you told me, hey, I want 15 of those perch color bladed jigs, just exactly like the ones you threw. Okay, let's do it. On the website, I think they're 650 on the website. On if you order directly through me, they're 550. I'm saving you money. And I would go, hey man, I'll meet you at the next tournament.
yeah.
Don't pay for shipping, you know. So it's those little things that we try to do for customers, and it's and I think people really enjoy that.
Yeah, and I like what you said about um originally being a little bit hesitant about secrets or whatever. And I think that might be one of the differences between going from like bass boats into the kayak. Like you
Yeah.
start to meet all these anglers. You know, you brought up, Kevin and Joe McCall. And the more people you meet, you're just like, man, I will do anything for these guys. Like,
Yeah.
look, dude, this is what I was throwing. Go throw this. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to catch the fish that
Yeah.
I was catching.
Matter of fact, it's funny you said that. I passed Joe doing my second rotation. And at that point, I think I had 90 inches and it was like 11 o'clock. And I never look at the standings. That's one thing I never do. But I pulled over on the bank and I submitted the fish that I had caught. And disclaimer, I was an idiot and double submitted a 17 and a half. I was an idiot. And I got the notification. It popped up on my Garmin and it said, your fish has been uh, disqualified. And I'm like, what? I've never had a fish DQ'd in my life.
Yeah.
So immediately I go right over to the bank. I smash that Hobie right on the bank. I pull my phone up and I'm trying to sift through. Well, what I did is I took my hand off and took a photo because that fish was finally being calm. Well, the other photo I had, because I take like 10 or 12 photos of one fish, and I submitted it with my hand on it. Well, I thought it was a new fish
Yeah.
because I was catching so many. I didn't know where I stopped. So I'm like, cool, I got 90 inches. And it bumped me up when I submitted those to like 90, 92 and a half or something. And I'm like, cool, man, I can upgrade to like, get some 19s or an 18. That'd be awesome. And we got this in the bag. And I look and it said it was DQ and it put a 16 and a half in its place. And I'm like, oh my God. That was a kick in the teeth for me. That took my morale and my mental state and just plummeted it because I was already cold. I was already irritated.
Yeah.
Like I'm cold. I don't know if this is going to be enough. I'm going to go out here and catch all these fish, and Aaron's going to, crack them out there because he didn't move all day, or Wiker's going to be sandbagging, or somebody's going to be sandbagging. But fortunately for me, 5 minutes after that fish was DQ'd, I caught an 18. So I was like, okay, I feel better. But
Yeah. So your misery didn't last too long.
no, well, all but the cold. I was,
Yeah, there was that. We
whew.
actually went, it was like 10:30, I think. We went back to the truck. We got in the truck and turned the heat on and just sat there for like 10 minutes.
Try to thaw out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and it's different when you have someone else with you. You
for
feel
sure.
like you've kind of pulled them into your miserable weather.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want to take a quick second, and thank you everyone that's still listening. This is, I mean, Brandon's given up all the juice, so of course you're still listening. But I just want to give a quick shout out to Strictly Sail. I mean, we do it at the Major Inn as well, but this Ohio kayak fishing, even the Cincinnati kayak fishing, we couldn't do any of this without all of the sponsors and all the people that really help us out and go above and beyond. And Strictly Sail is definitely one of them. Brian Tacey does so much behind the scenes. I cannot even begin to try to explain how much work there is for these small fishing trails that end up with 94 anglers fishing. It's a lot of work. So thank you to Strictly Sail, and back to our regular program. We both fish out of Hobie, so that's good. It's
Yeah.
good for the
Yeah.
podcast.
Hobie makes, and I have said this since I got it, that is the Cadillac, man. I don't care what anybody else says. You can have your XTR or your RVR or whatever you want, or your native Titan X or your Shoaly, nothing against Drew, but that's the Cadillac, man. I
Yeah.
I put that Newport on the back of that kayak and I will never look back. I absolutely love that kayak. It is rock solid. Just the other day, I was at Portage Lake bed fishing, and I put a video up on my YouTube channel about that. And I was literally standing on top of my seat, on top of the kayak cushion I won in the raffle. And thank you, Strictly Sail.
Yeah.
um, but I was standing up there, and that thing's rock solid. I mean, I never feel once coming from a big boat, which you would think I'm teeter tottery and like a weeble wobble, but it is rock solid.
Yeah.
And big waves, I've been out on Main Lake Erie, all the way out to Put-in Bay, and that thing's I can't say enough about that kayak. It is phenomenal. I've never once thought, "Oh my God, I'm gonna flip it,"
Yep.
or "Oh, this water's too rough," or I've never had an inch of water in that boat. It's used when I bought it.
Yeah.
It's
What
the
year is your
Cadillac. What's that?
what year is your Hobie?
It is a 23. It was
23.
a
Okay.
it was a 23 leftover pro boat from where'd I get it? Buckeye. I got it from Buckeye.
Okay. And I have a 2020 and
Okay.
just like you, never had any water in it. I have the original belt. I know a lot of people had the belt, the drive,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll snap and they're like, oh, and they redesigned it and all that. So I probably do need to replace it
Hmm.
proactively, but don't get any water in the kayak. And exactly what you said, I can stand up, move around. And I mean, I'm not a big guy, so, it's like when you used to see Ike Anelli jumping around in his Hobie. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's kind of what I do. I move around a lot.
That boy's
Um,
wild, let me tell you.
he
I
is,
fished next to him at the Susky for the bass event. He's something else.
yeah,
He's a great
it's
dude though.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, listen, man, I mean, we've talked a lot about the tournament. I hope everyone got what they came here to get. I guess about East Harbor tournament, the OKF stop number 2. But I want to like get people to like kind of get to know you a little bit. If you go all the way back to when you first started fishing, a lot of us, fishing for bluegill from the bank, or some of us had a dad, grandpa that had a bass boat and we started like that. You think about like BLAT, and you just look at his kids out there fishing with him. Like, how did you get started and then how did it transition into kayaks?
Whew, that's a tough question. So I started competitively fishing, I would say when I was 7 to 8 years old. My dad fished what was at the time called Red Man. So he's always competitively fished. He fished at the highest competitive level, which was Red Man at the time. He fished the ABAs. He fished way back in the day, and I'm dating my dad against a guy named Ron Yurko. If you look up Venom lures, they have a jig called the Yurko jig. It's the $1 million jig, and Ron Yurko legitimately won $1 million on that jig. So it, bringing it all together, my dad competitively fished growing up, um, from God, probably since the late 70s, 80s, and was pretty good at it. He had a lot of good success. Flipper to the bone. So when I started fishing with him, I mean, that's what he still did. He flipped a lot. So I really, had to learn how to. At the time, I was using a 507 reel, the little old push button reels.
Yeah.
Still have them. No, I don't use them anymore, but that's how I got started. And honestly, I really never fished for bluegill or panfish besides with my grandfather. He was from West Virginia, so he was, you catch it, eat it, But he wasn't big into bass. We'd always take him out and crappie fish and stuff like that. And I just enjoyed spending time with my dad and my grandfather. But the competitive side of me growing up, I'm like, I want that guy's money. I want to go fish I want to go, I want that cool plaque, whatever it may be. Even a kid's fishing derby, like, pushing kids off the bank. Like I want that spot. But growing up, that's what I did. I started getting more into it. My dad said, look, at one point I went and fished a Portage Lakes Wednesday nighter and won it by myself. And he's like, you can do this, you can do it. And he made me take my boater's safety course. He said, if you pass that, here's the keys to the pro craft, which is what the boat was at the time. You go out and you win some tournaments, and maybe you'll be recognized for somebody, which never was, and never really cared to be recognized. I'm me and I'll always be me no matter what I am. But I, fast forwarding a little bit, I had some issues on the water with some other big bass boat anglers. We'll just call them big boat for that matter, big boat
Yeah.
anglers. And I told my dad one day we were fishing just a Thursday night tournament on Berlin, and it's one of my favorite lakes out there. I don't know why it's really tough, but I like grinder lakes. And make a short story shorter, it was more of a you jumped me, more of a you didn't give me enough room, blah 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 blah. And this dude's 65 years old, screaming at me. At the time, I was a absolutely jacked 25-year-old kid. Like, you don't want to do this, you know? And working in law enforcement, if anything, has taught me, like, dial it back a little bit. You know, there's no reason to fight and argue, and people think that words are going to hurt other people. For me, they don't. They make me laugh as I get called everything on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But I went home that night and I sat in our shop and I told my dad, I said, I'm done. I'm done fishing big boat tournaments. And he looked at me like I had four eyes. And I said, look, I want to change. You know, I want a little bit more of a challenge and I want to change. And quite frankly, I'm tired of I own this spot and this water's mine, you know. So I went home that night. I listed my Ranger I had for sale. And fortunately, a family friend of ours bought it. So I still know where it's at. Um, and I went and actually bought a Bass Pro Shops package. What the heck was that boat? It is the worst thing on the planet to buy. Please don't buy it.
I'm not gonna say it. I think I know, but I'm not gonna.
I can't think of the name. So if you have an idea, please tell me.
Well, I was thinking like an Ascend.
Yes, it was an Ascend.
Okay.
It was the 128 XE or whatever.
Yeah.
Come with the trolling motor, with the motor guide, which was the best part of the package. But that thing was a hunk of junk of crap. It was big, it was bulky. I took it. My first tournament was at the Great Miami, and it was awful. Granted, I didn't know anything about kayaks, so I'm like, this thing's cool. It's got a lot of room. It's like a miniature John boat. It was awful. The plastic was bad quality. I actually took it back
Oh.
and I kept the motor guide, kept the remote, which for some reason they let me do. I don't know how, but anyways, I went straight to Buckeye and bought that Hobie. Didn't want to spend, that much money on a kayak, but hey, I sold my bass boat. I'm all in.
Yeah.
So I mounted the motor guide on the front of there, fished some tournaments, and I got my teeth kicked in, and I'm like, this is ridiculous because I know these lakes. The first tournament I fished out of it was at Mosquito. And
Okay.
I'm like, there's no way. Like, I will beat the crap. These are just measly kayak anglers.
What
They're just
trail were you
kayak.
fishing? Was it
It
PKFP?
was, I think it was Buckeye.
Okay.
So it was Buckeye, if I remember right. It could have been Canio. I forget. Anyways, I
Yeah.
got my teeth kicked in, but I was like, I got spots out the wazoo. I have all my electronics from my bass boat on this kayak, which I didn't even think I would ever do. 360 forward facing sonar with Garmin. Like, I'm going to kick these kayak guys' teeth in.
Yeah.
They're just kayakers, They're just kayakers. They don't know what they're doing. I come from a big boat, and that was the cocky side of me coming and saying I'm better than everybody else because I fished out of a bass boat. Well, boy, was I wrong. you know, I got my teeth kicked in for the first year and a half, 2 years of kayak fishing. And you know what? I think it made me better and more humble now because I know what I'm going up against. Like, these guys are good. They are freaking hammers,
Oh
no
yeah.
matter where you fish out of. If there's some dude, I saw a guy in our tournament out there in an Ascend paddling. He was just paddling his kayak, and I'm like, with this wind, you are more of a man than me. And if you're listening, whoever you are, shout out to you because
Yeah.
I'm lazy. If I'm pedaling, I'm complaining. Like, I hate it. I never pedaled all day. I set that Newport perfectly and just held myself dead still in the wind.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going so slow when I start pedaling. And I'm like, how
Yeah,
is, and then I
like you're
remember
getting
back to
nowhere.
paddling. I used to when I started back in 2018, I fished out of a Pelican.
Yeah.
And I remember paddling it. We fished on Buckeye Lake, and I paddled all the way back to the lake, and then I left. It was like an hour before lines in, and I left, and my buddy left that same area like 10, 15 minutes before lines out, and he met me at the ramp. It took me an hour to paddle back to the ramp, and
Oh,
that was pre-motor. So yeah,
I'm
I
so
do like the
grateful.
I told you I have the Torquedo. I have two Torquedos on
Hmm.
the two Hobies. Where do you in your PA? Where do you put your battery for your Newport? Do you have it up front or is it still in the back?
So I use a ginormous battery. I don't know if you remember me telling you at the awards, I use a 100 amp hour battery. I don't want to have to worry about loss of power. I don't want to have to worry about charging it after one day. I mean, I fished the Bassmaster event at the Susky, and I covered over 65 miles with that Newport, bouncing off of rocks. I took an eighth of an inch off my prop. And that was over a matter of 3 days of practice. Cutoff was at 4 the evening before, and I covered that much water. And I was at 65% the night before the tournament.
Wow.
Like,
How do
it's
you
under
rig
my
up and how
seat.
do you know how much battery life you have?
It's Bluetooth.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I forget
honestly,
they
it's
have
just
that.
a battery off Amazon.
Okay.
It's fantastic. And I told Joe McCall, I said, he bought a Newport for his XTR. And I said, dude, I'm telling you right now, once you get used to it, you'll never go back. It's all hands free. I don't have to worry about a remote. Spot lock is great, don't get me wrong. But if I could afford both, I would for sure buy the Motor Guide and the Newport because I mean, let's face it, that's the future. Everybody's going to have two motors on their kayaks.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, but
Well, they
it's
might
whether
have
the
I don't
circuit's regulated.
yeah, I don't know if it'll be allowed, but
Yeah,
you could definitely rig it up and then choose the one that fits the conditions you're going to fish.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I will say this. I am absolutely honored to say now that I'm a kayak angler. I feel that the kayak angler nation in a whole, and I've fished big national events and I've fished our local events. I fished events where you can't have motors. I've fished, all kinds of stuff now, and I've kind of dabbled in a lot of things. Even at the highest level, even if you go talk to Drew, you talk to Christine, you talk to Russ Snyder's. Russ Snyder's is the goat. Let's be honest. The dude is absolutely a hammer. He wins at every level, and he's probably won more money than anybody. And he is a down to earth good dude. All these people, even the people who run these circuits, they're they're really good people. They're all humble. If it's not often that in big boat tournaments we'd ever camped, but like now, even camping, it's brought me closer to so many more people. Like in this tournament, never talked to Melissa in my life. Melissa came over and said hi and talked to me and congratulated me and stayed after and took some photos for me. She don't know me from Adam. It's things like that. It's the little things that it makes me proud to say, like, look, this is I want to be a part of something like this
Yeah.
because kayak anglers we can talk. We had I had so many people around me all day, and I had a guy. I believe he might have been fishing with his dad. I could be wrong, but every time I saw him, we both caught fish, and we both sat on a spot at one point and just caught back to back to back to back to back fish. And I was like, dude, this is a blast. And we're laughing, cutting up with each other in a
Yeah.
in a big boat. That doesn't happen. And
Right.
honestly, that starts with you guys, the directors, and people who found all these things. That's that's coming from a director myself. I directed big boat tournaments, and it says something for the circuit and for the series or whatever you want to call it that people respect each other, and the directors, if they don't, they're not going to put up with it. If you have an issue, you settle it on the water. If not, don't come back. It's phenomenal. I absolutely love it. Everybody's super cordial, and everybody laughs and talks, and
Yeah.
it's just a good time. I really like it.
Yeah, and then we try to do a thing. Started it last year, but really making more of an effort this year to say who's new, you know, who's never been to a tournament, or is this your first measuring or whatever? And then there were two people, so
Yeah.
I mean we had 94 anglers and 38 people showed up at the end of that day.
Yeah.
Cold,
Miserable.
wet, miserable day. Yeah, the wind. 38 people showed up, and we don't always have like all the prizes. We don't
Yeah.
always go all out. Sometimes it's just trophies.
Yeah.
But to have all the anglers show up, to show support for their friends, um, and just understanding that there's not like sometimes people think there's like cliques, and it's like no, no, no. This is an angler that I know, and I haven't seen this guy in like 2 months,
Yeah.
and it looks
Yeah.
like it's a clique over here, but I'm trying to reconnect with somebody that I actually know really well.
Hmm.
Um, and then sometimes newer people can kind of feel, maybe left out. But I love what you're saying. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation on the water where it's like, no, 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 you go, no, 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 you, no, no, no,
Yeah.
go ahead, you go first,
Yeah.
because and
I,
you're fighting over the who's going to go down the
yeah.
bank.
Hmm. And
Yeah,
it's great because so I don't even know what the guy's name is. He was fishing with his dad. I went back through and he goes, "Hey, are you braided?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Dude, you're winning this tournament." I'm like, "I am." I didn't know I was. I'm like, "By how much?" And he goes, "Well, the closest one to you is Aaron." And I think at the time he had like mid 80s, and I
yeah,
was sitting at 90 inches. And I was like, "Oh, cool," you know. And he's like, "I'll tell you what, I'm gonna leave. You just keep fishing this spot." And I'm like, "No, no, no. You keep doing you. I'll go away. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing." And he's like, "No, I want you to have this area. You have a chance to win. I don't." And I'm like, that is beyond,
yeah,
like,
and
there's
it's
no words to
yeah,
describe that, you know?
right, and it's not like it's elite series where there's cameras
No.
and all of this is being recorded like this.
Yeah.
They're not doing this they're not virtue signaling in any way. They're
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, you're leading the tournament. Let me move on."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. Um,
Yeah. It's awesome.
so, but and then the other thing, man, like, so first you got first place, obviously, over $1,400, and then $470 for big bass. That is to me like that's insane for a kayak tournament. I never thought a local
Yeah.
kayak trail would be
Yeah.
almost $2,000 for first place.
Yep. Yeah.
So
My wife, I sent her the results when I got off the water, and she's like, "Is that legit?" And I'm like, "Well, people still have 30 minutes to submit, you know, like
yeah,
it can change." And again, I really thought that wasn't going to hold. I thought Aaron would, submit a couple big fish at the end, or somebody would come screaming from the bottom, that had no fish submitted, because people do that. I try not to, because it helps me manage my fish. I need to know what I need to call out.
yeah.
Um, but
Well,
she's
and
like,
you
"Is
won
that
big
legit?"
bass. You
Huh?
won big bass by submitting your fish first.
Yeah,
If you had
completely
held on to that
unintentional.
fish, yeah,
Hmm.
it's not when you caught it; it's when you submit it. That's
Yeah,
the tiebreaker. Yeah,
and I didn't know that. I'll be honest with you. I
yeah,
I I just submit my fish when I get five, and now I know how to manage the catch and know what I need to call out, because I'm not going to mess around, measuring a 15 and a half incher if my smallest fish is 16.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, if you catch a big one, submit it right away.
For sure. But now I know.
And you're not wrong with the not that Aaron doesn't sandbag. And by the way,
No.
I don't care if people do that. Everyone has their own reason on why they would hold back fish. It's not always like some nefarious like strategy or whatever. It's some
Right.
people just that's what they do. So, but Aaron, he caught a fish in a tournament. It might have even been on East Harbor. He caught a fish at like 1 minute after lines out, or right
Oh,
at lines out, like within the like three 3 o'clock and however many seconds.
yeah.
I remember that so clear. He was like, "Hey, look at this," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I don't remember if he would have won,
Yeah.
but it was a big one too. Um, those big fish always want to bite super late in the tournament to just mess with us.
My bigger bites actually came earlier, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they just did. I mean, that 19 and a half, I think I caught it at like 9:30, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at my photos to be honest with you, but it was that one surprised me. It really did. I'm actually gonna pull it up because I'm curious now.
You have me curious on the melting point of tungsten. That's what I'm gonna Google
Oh,
after we get off the
it's
phone.
it's like 4,000 degrees or something crazy.
That's a lot of degrees.
I caught that 19 and a half at 11:17.
Okay.
So I started going to town, the fish that mattered, I would say. 8:04 was a 17 and a half. 10:08 was a 19. 11:17, 19 and a half. 12:38 was a 19. 2:18 was an 18, which is after I figured out that fish was DQ'd.
Oh yeah.
I was so upset. So yeah, those generally mid morning to later in the day is when my bigger bites came.
Yeah. Yep. Well, listen, man. Let's wrap this up. But I, like always, I want to make sure that I give you time. I know you talked about blue line bass fishing already, and the 330. I already forgot 330
Bait
bait
company.
bait company. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sounds. Is there anyone else you want to give a shout out to, or anything you want to say? Anyone you want to thank? The stage is yours to wrap this up before we officially wrap it up.
I mean, obviously Jesus Christ is the biggest one you got to thank. I mean, none of this is possible. These circuits aren't possible. Anybody doing successful in a tournament is not possible. Obviously, he was watching over us all, keeping us safe and not hyperthermic. Um, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I did grow up in church, and I will always put the right person first. Obviously, I want to thank my dad. He's the one that got me into this. Obviously, not kayak fishing, but he thought I was a little crazy at first. But my dad's taught me everything I know. I mean, I have perfected and honed in on things that I do better, and that's kind of what's given me my success, not just in kayaks, but in big boats, which I still do fish some tournaments, but it's here and there. Um, but honestly, the biggest thanks goes to you guys. We as anglers can't do it if you guys don't make it fluid and make it easy on us. It we don't have to have all the prizes and the raffles and those things, but they're all things that keep people coming together. Like you said, we had 38, I believe you said, people at the measure in. Those people came there for a reason, you know. Hey, maybe I'll win something. I might not have done good today, but maybe I'll win some today. But it gets everybody there together, gets you talking fishing. And that's what we do. We like to talk fishing. We're all anglers, whether it's over a fire or whether it's in Fisherman Central Port Clinton. Um, but yeah, the biggest thanks goes to you guys. The directors are what makes the world go round. Everything is fluid. You make it easy on us. We don't have anything to worry about. If there's a dispute, we know it's going to be handled correctly. And we ultimately know that we're in good hands with OKF, or even if you use Canio. That's a great run series also.
Yeah.
But it, everything that I fished thus far, especially OKF, is phenomenal. The payouts are so fast.
Yeah, you're
Um,
are already paid out. You won
yeah, already
Saturday,
paid
and you
out.
got your money.
I saw that come in, and it just, it took my day and made me smile, and I'm like, oh, there's $1,899, So, but yeah, I mean, huge thanks to our sponsors also. Strictly Sail is huge. I will put that kayak cushion on my kayak and I will sit it there loud and proud.
Yep. And you got the
So
hat. I see you got the
I got the hat. Yeah.
yep, you got the
Yep,
hat.
for sure.
So I love it. You're right. And then obviously Strictly Sale, like you said. Also Fisherman Central, they gave us two $50 gift cards. We didn't ask for that. We didn't know
Hmm.
that was gonna happen. The manager, Dave, I
Dave
think is his
Wakeham.
name, came over and was like, "Hey, if I gave you two gift cards," I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll give it to the first person that was out of the money, which
Hmm.
meant 10th place, and then the angler that lost the tiebreaker to you um, for big fish, because there was another 19 and a half, and then Hannigan caught a 19 and a quarter.
Yeah.
So there were some other bigger fish caught. So
Mhm.
thanks to them, and then Rogue Fishing, and of course Hobie Fishing, Hobie Eyewear, Hobie Fishing. We get the other angler. Did you notice the okay, the one that lost the tiebreaker was brand new, not brand new, but it was, he said it was his first in
Okay.
person. And then the other one was the first raffle ticket that was drawn,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
won the Hobie eyewear sunglasses.
Yep. That's
So
what I wear, man. Hobie Sight Masters.
yeah, he won a pair of $200 and they were good, dude. They were slick too. They were, I opened them up and looked at them before I had to give them away. They're all black, and they had like the cover on the side to keep the shade out, and of
Ooh,
course they float.
of
Um,
course.
yeah, they were pretty good sunglasses. So
That's sweet.
yeah. All right, man. I'm gonna jump off here and let you go. I appreciate you coming on here, and obviously the next tournament is, we're doing one a month, OKF. So the next one is gonna be in June, and it's Portage Lakes, Nimisila, Mogador, Wingfoot. If you don't
Yep.
know what Portage Lakes is, look it up. There's a whole bunch of lakes, and most of them are in play. So it's going to be quite the adventure. And now that I know you're 330, I'm like, oh boy.
It's gonna be a slugfest. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to see who gets big. I want to see a 22-inch big bass.
Yeah, I think you will. I'll be honest with you. I really think you will.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again, Brandon. I love it. It was great. And thank you to everyone who's still listening, and like, subscribe, all those things, guys. We can't do what we're doing without all of you guys. So have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.